Greetings, everyone, and thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Female Barber Talk with Yah-Tay. I am your host, Yah-Tay Keaton, also known as Yah-Tay the Barber Stylist, and I'm back with another episode from what I would say a series entitled Cutting Through the Mindset. It's about identity, alignment, and legacy. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. I appreciate you joining. If you're catching this on the replay, thank you for taking time out of your day to replay this particular podcast. But nonetheless, we're going to jump right on into today's topic. Let me get some things up here. Y'all know how it is. Let's get this ticker going. So tonight's episode is it's about barber identity and worth. So the title is, Who Are You Without the Clippers? Who are you without your clippers? Who are you without your shears? Who are you without whatever tool that you use for whatever profession that you're in? And even though I mentioned that we're talking specifically to the barbering community, but like I say, any of this information can be utilized throughout any profession, because the fundamental principles are those that can be used anywhere. And I try to keep it like that, just so if someone is popping across this podcast and they think, oh, it's about barbering, no, it's really about you. But nonetheless, we are on episode number 57. Tonight's topic is, who are you without the clippers? So let me ask you something. Got to ask you an important question, and then we're going to get into the point of this particular podcast. We got people joining. Hey, Sandra, thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you joining. As I mentioned, tonight is about who are you without the clippers, and the clipper can be any other item that is used in your profession. So you can take and substitute that. For those of you who are listening, can take and substitute clippers and put anything there, hammer, nail, whatever. But nonetheless, tonight's episode is about barber identity and worth. I want to talk about our identity beyond the barber chair, beyond the salon chair, beyond the massage table, whatever it is that you use. What is your identity outside of what you do? So with that, if I took the clippers away, if your clippers, you know, we had to take your clippers out of your hand today, who would you be tomorrow? Barbering is more than a skill. For many of us, it becomes our identity. But what happens when the chair is empty, when business slows down, or when your body needs rest? Y'all know I've been talking about rest a lot lately. As I've always mentioned, I'm a little more seasoned than the average individual that come into the industry. You know, most individuals who come into the barbering and beauty industry, they tend to be in their late teens, early 20s, somewhere along there. Well, I entered in my late 40s. I've had plenty of careers. I've done a lot of different things, but nonetheless, what I see that could be valuable to the young barber stylist, the young master hair care professional, or even the person who's still in school or considering this industry. I want to share some things with you, because I feel like, based on my experience and where I am now, I can provide you with some insight, save you some headaches, and also give you some things that'll help you lay a healthy foundation for longevity in this career. Because where I am now within the career, it's like what Nakia Berry's talked about in the episode she did, telling us how to take care of our body. I don't have the actual number right now, but I'll be sure to put that in the comments later on. But she spoke on taking care of the body, and she gave us statistics in that particular episode of the burnout is at 5 years. So I'm entering into my 6th year. So what I am talking about and bringing forth is very, very personal. Is something in many cases that I'm experiencing or have experienced. So what they say, experience is the best teacher. So that's what I'm sharing with you all. So once again, I want to ask that question because I want you to think about this. I'm gonna give you some other things to think about as well. And as I mentioned, you can apply this to any profession. What if we took your clippers out of your hand or whatever instrument it is that you use within your profession? Who would you be tomorrow? Who would you be tomorrow? So in today's episode, or this particular episode, I'm going to talk about, we will talk about separating who you are, or who we are, or who I am from what we do, because our worth is never supposed to be tied or dependent on productivity or tied to what we do. In other words, yes, I am a barber and I barber, right? But that's not who I am. So we're looking at identity. We're looking at who we are outside of what we do. And as you all know, I have 3 points and we're going to jump right into this. So the first point that I want to discuss, and y'all know I got notes because I want to be intentional about this, right? The first point that I want to discuss with this topic of who are you without the clippers is when work becomes identity. I already mentioned, separating who you are from what you do, because oftentimes that line gets crossed and we oftentimes see our worth in what we do. And it's never supposed to be that way or depend on productivity. Okay. So the first point is when work becomes your identity. What happens when your work becomes your identity? I tell you one thing, then I'm gonna give you some examples. We're gonna discuss that. Passion can quickly turn into identity attachment. When our work is paired to our identity, then our passion quickly, and in my thought process, it kind of diminishes because we see who we are and what we do. So we're trying to separate it from a standpoint of that's not what you see all the time. So some things that I want to share with you are, and I have like 3 examples. So barbering, just think about this. Barbering started out as a craft, but then it became your validation. So how do we get from barbering being what you do to barbering becoming your validation of who you are? Another thing, when the compliments and the bookings, the compliments that you get from the service that you provide, the great cuts and styles that you do, and the booking becomes proof of your worth. Is that really so? Because your books are full, or because you get so many compliments, do you tie that to your worth? Do you tie that to your identity? Do you tie that to who you are as a person? And another thing is taking days off. I talk about this a lot because, as I mentioned before, I'm a little more seasoned, so I have to look at things a little different. I can't, like when I played ball, there are some things that I could do then that I'm not able to do now And that's because of the body aging. I'm not, I don't have the physical, the body that I used to back then. But yet at the same time, you have to respect where you are. We talked about seasons in previous episodes, and I run down the three that we've done that actually ties into this series that I'm doing entitled, let me get it, Cutting Through Mindset. So basically what this whole ordeal is about is cutting through the mindset, the hustle culture. And I know I'll get some slack about that, but I'm looking at it from a different vantage point. All right. Trying to save you young folks some heartaches and some pain and stuff like that as you mature in this career, as you move along your move along growth in within this career. And I want you to be able to get past the 5 year mark and not feel burnt out. It'll be like, oh, I'm just getting started. It's only been 5 years. Yes. So that's what I'm looking at for you, especially my younger generation. I don't know, it's kind of challenging when you get the more seasoned individual who's been around for a long time, who got multiple years in. The old adage that it's hard to teach a old dog new tricks. It can be like that in some instances, but not always, especially if the individual is looking to continuously evolve or reinvent themselves, or pivot. When you're looking at those things, then that's where being open um, to see what is out there. How can I take these skill sets and evolve them and roll them over into something else? We talked about seasons in one of our episodes, but nonetheless, um, in this category of, or what I would say, session, it's cutting through mindsets. And that's basically what we want to do: cut through these mindsets that aren't conducive, they aren't productive, they aren't helping you to achieve the success and the goals and things that you desire. So identity, alignment, and legacy, ultimately, that's what it's all about. Your identity within this, not that your clippers define your identity, but who you are in this career field, or any career field for that matter. Your alignment, are you in alignment? We talked about that as well. Alignment, purpose, and also legacy. What are you leaving behind? What do you desire to leave behind? So the last thing that I want to talk about in this particular point is taking days off and not feeling uncomfortable because your work doesn't define the routine. In other words, not feeling some type of way about taking time off, not feeling like you got to hustle, and be there at every point. I know people who work seven, and don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for everything. But if you balance that, you'll be able to not only maintain your health, maintain the longevity of what it is that you desire to do within this career. That's how I'm looking at it. All right. So taking days off and not feeling uncomfortable because work defines your routine. So with this first point, when work becomes identity, what we're trying to, or what I would like for you to consider is separating what you do from your worth. Okay. Remember, they're never, they I like to say never, but they weren't intended to be one and the same. Okay. So if they took them clippers away from you, who would you be without those clippers? If I came to the shop and said, you got to shut it down, there's no more cutting after today, who would you be tomorrow? That's what I want you to consider. So some things that I want you to reflect on at this for this particular point is, when did you start measuring your value by how busy you are? Think about that. You might not have thought about it, but when we talk about the compliments and the booking and, all of that feeling a part of your worth, think about, when did you start measuring your value by how busy you are? Another thing that I want you to reflect on, and I got two more things. Do you feel less important when your schedule isn't full? How do you feel when your schedule isn't full? What does that make you think about when your schedule isn't full? Do you shift your mindset and you focus on how you can promote yourself, how you can enhance what you're currently doing? Are you looking at something else besides the schedule? The next question is that I want you to think about is, who are you before you ever packed up your clippers? Who were you before you ever picked up the clippers? Who were you before you ever thought about going to barber school? Who are you, period? This is all about identity. So the first point is, when work becomes identity, we want to separate the two. Are you what you do, or that's just what you do? Remember, barbering is more than a skill. It's more than a skill. So the next point that I want to share with you all is about rest. Why rest feels like failure for some. And it's probably because what you do is tied to your identity. So when you're resting, you feel like failure because you're not booked, you're not being complimented on what you do. I can't take days off. What are they going to think? How are they going to view me? So if your identity equals productivity, guess what? Rest will make you feel threatened, or it will feel threatening. All right. So here are a few points as it relates to why rest feels like failure. Hustle culture tends to reward exhaustion. But remember, when we talked about in the last episode, hustle or alignment, why they're not the same? If you haven't seen that episode, check it out, episode 56. All right. We talked about some of this and how the hustle culture rewards exhaustion. And like I say, there's a time and a place for everything. But even in it being a time and a place, you got to be able to balance that. Okay. The next thing, what happens when guilt shows up? Guilt shows up when you're not producing. This is when you are solely tied to what you do. So if you feel guilty about not producing, that means you're tied up in what you do versus who you are. You got those two tied together. And the last thing in this particular point is visibility. Visibility becomes tied to your relevance. If your visibility is tied to your relevance, then guess what? You resting it's going to seem like failure, because your productivity or what you produce is tied to that. You got to be able to balance it. If you're not balancing and you're overworking yourself, guess what? Your body going to tell you, oh, it's time to rest. And if you don't pay attention to it, it's going to shut you down. And then what do? What do you do then? I'm just pausing a little bit so you can think about that. So some questions that I want you to reflect on as it relates to this point, why rest feels or may feel like failure to you. Think about this. Why do you feel guilty when you slow down? What is it that make you feel guilty when you slow down? And I'm talking to myself because I'm one that used to go, 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 do. And I had some slow down moments. So that's why I can talk to you about this from experience and talk about balance and why it's important. And also be at, I guess you can say adamant about it, especially for the younger barbers and the newer ones who are entering into this industry. Because if you get the foundation laid right from the start, you won't have to make those drastic adjustments or changes on the back end. So once again, don't tie your identity, or I'm going to say you shouldn't tie your identity to your productivity. Because when you do that, you put yourself in a pigeonhole. You put yourself in a position where your body is wanting you to slow down or get some rest, but you so focused on, I gotta go, 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 go. When you're the service provider, if you're not taking care of yourself, you won't be able to provide a service. Seriously, I'm speaking from experience. All right. The next question I want you to think about as it relates to why rest feels like failure is, what story did you learn about rest growing up? You can hear the conversations in the shop. I've heard it. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Well, I got a call coming in. Hold on. Let me tell my mentor I call him back. I'm on my podcast. I'll call you back. I have a lot I want to talk to you about in reference to today's a segment. Awesome. All right. Love you. Speaking of that, let me cut in real quick. So before I finish this, I want to say, if you all have not had an opportunity to purchase your ticket for African Intelligence, it's the virtual natural hair show that took place today. Part 2 is tomorrow. You're missing out. You are missing out. Let me run this clip real quick. Hold on.
Of technology, a new era.
Hold on.
From
Let's
the
put
roots
this
of
up.
tradition to the rise of technology, a new era of beauty culture innovation begins. Introducing the first ever African Intelligent Virtual Natural Hair Show, where the art of natural hair meets the power of artificial intelligence. This is not just a show, it's a revolution, a movement to celebrate Black excellence, creativity, and the genius of our roots.
Hey, WK, thank you for joining. Greatly appreciate you tuning in. Welcome to tonight's edition. We are talking about who are we without the clippers, whatever tool or instrument or implement you use when you provide your service, work in your profession. Who are you outside of what you do? That's what we're talking about tonight. And I just shared the video of African Intelligence. I was on today. I have a VIP pass, y'all. And let me tell you, I got so many notes that I took. And the other thing, I had to remind myself, oh, Yataye, you got VIP pass, so you're going to get 6 months of replay. So I slowed down on the notes a bit so that I can be in the moment and get the information. Mr. Tondo Kafele, aka the King of Lock, this was genius. This was genius. I got so much done today while I was taking part in this. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. WK says here, love the shirt, Yataye. Thank you. This is a part of the Real Roots Apparel collection. The website is currently down right now. I'm making some changes and adjustments. However, this is one of the many collections that I've had. I'm doing a little revamping on a lot of stuff, y'all. But nonetheless, this is the I Love My Real Roots. I also have a female barber collection. It's a lot of stuff, but I'm in a place, in a space, which is why I am doing this series. I don't know how long it's going to be, long as I, keep coming up with things to go under it. But nonetheless, about cutting through the mindset. And it's not just for me, but it's for those who are stuck, who are looking for change, who are undecided, who are pivoting. But nonetheless, yeah. Anywho, let me get back to this second point. So the first point, for those of you who are just tuning in, we talked about when work becomes our identity. So we're basically separating what we do from who we are. So we took them implements, those tools away from you. Who are you? If you couldn't practice your profession, today was the last day and you couldn't practice tomorrow, who would you be? Who are you? Okay. And oftentimes people tie what they do into who they are, into their productivity, and then we talked about why rest feels like failure. So then if they're hustling and they're trying to make it happen, but yet rest seems threatening. And for someone who's been through a lot of different careers, and as I shared earlier, because I'm in this space, in this season of my life, I'm able to share certain things to our younger generation, those who are coming in, who are considering the field, to help them build a foundation to where when they get to that 5-year mark, they don't feel like they burn out and ready to quit and go into something else. They feel like, oh, I'm just getting started. I can handle this. I'm ready for this. So with that being said, the last question I ask as it relates to why rest feels like failure is, are you afraid of being forgotten? I hadn't asked it. The last question was, what story did you learn about rest growing up? What was those things about that was said about rest? Oh, you lazy. Oh, you this. Oh, you that. Or you the other. You got to get up and go. You got to do this. What about rest? Our body needs time to rejuvenate. It needs time to recuperate in some instances. It needs time to relax, period. So the next question is, are you afraid of being forgotten if you're not always visible? So it goes back to that point of being seen, is when visibility becomes tied to your relevance. Is you being visible equivalent to your relevance? Again, what you do, who you are they tied together? So the next point that I want to share with you as it relates to who are you without those clippers? Who are you without those shears? Who are you without whatever tool you use to do your job, offer your service, or do your work? The second one is separating who you are from what you do. This is important. I've been kind of hitting at this the whole episode and talking points as it relates to who are you without your clippers or without your implements or without your tools. So what I mean by this, separating who you are from what you do, your skills are a part of you. They're not all of you. Okay? They're a part of you, but they're not all of who you are. So the first point that I want to mention with this, and there are 3 points, identity rooted in purpose is stable. Identity rooted in who you are, what you do, that's instability. When that becomes a part of your identity, it becomes challenging to separate the two. So performance-based identity is also frugal. It doesn't last. All right. When you think about that, now I get it. And depending on where you are and what you're doing, performance is part of the metrics. But what I'm saying here is balance. You got to be able to balance the two. And another point with this, creativity returns when pressure decreases, when pressure is lowered. So oftentimes when we're high strung, when we're going, our creativity isn't there. It gets stifled. You heard about writer's block and many other things that individuals use, a creator's block, or things that comes up when we got so much going on. So creativity returns when pressure decreases, which what I'm saying is when you're under pressure, your creativity is stifled when you're under a lot of pressure. You don't think as creative. Um, it's almost like you draw a blank. You draw a blank for quite a period of time. But nonetheless, self-worth should not fluctuate with your income. That's another thing. Some people are tied not only to what they do, but their income is also tied to that. So they may feel good one day because they got a stack of money, and then when they don't have it or they low on funds, they don't feel so good because who they are is tied to their resources. It's tied to how much income they make. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that we don't need it. We do. But when it gets to the point where your self-worth is tied to that, then we got a problem. That's why I'm sharing with this third point. You want to separate who you are from what you do. Because if you can't do it anymore, then who are you? Who are you? So my reflective questions for this last point, what qualities do you have that have nothing to do with barbering? So what qualities do you have that have absolutely nothing to do with barbering? Have you thought about that? If you haven't thought about it, it's something you want to think about. If you are a person who's in this position that I've just mentioned in these last 3 points, is your work or has your work become your identity? Do you feel bad about resting? Do you feel like you're failing if you're resting? Are you at that point where who you are is tied to what you do? That's the question that I want you to think about when I talk about what qualities do you have that have nothing to do with barbering, nothing to do with styling, nothing to do with braiding, nothing to do with what you do as a profession. The second question that I want you to think about and reflect on is, what parts of yourself have you neglected because you're always working? I tell you something simple, y'all, and this just happened. Actually, we're in a new week, so last week. So something simple as self-care. I gotta tell y'all, and I'm being very transparent with this. And I let this situation stop me from getting pedicures. I'm gonna tell y'all about this. So, for my birthday last week, I treated myself to a waterless pedicure. And I have a girlfriend that lives out in Texas, Dallas to be more specific, who had told me about this. And I was like, waterless pedicure. All I've known is water pedicure, where you put your feet in the bowl. But I had went to this place, and I won't name no names. I just hadn't gone back and won't go back. But I had developed a fungus on my big toe, and for years I hadn't got a pedicure done because of that. That it made me afraid. Why am I bringing this up? Because I'm a barber. I stand on my feet. And I've told y'all about some other conditions that I have with my feet that I need to take care of my feet a little bit better. But it comes from all the careers that I've had, the different things that I've done. Is I guess you can say is catching up. But I'm making headway now that I have the proper physical therapy in place and other modalities to help support me so that I can do what I do for a longer period of time. But in that, let's get to the point. I had developed a toenail fungus on my big toe, my right foot, and I stopped getting pedicures to the point I was scared of it. But nonetheless, I finally broke down. I found a place where my girlfriend told me about that. It popped up on my phone. I went to this young lady locally, and I got a dang, what is it? It's like it's a dry pedicure, but it was a medical pedicure. The young lady's professionally, she is a nurse who's become an advanced nail technician. So she brings that expertise to what she does, and she's also passionate about it. The place is called Palmetto Nail and Foot Spa. Shout out to Bonita. But nonetheless, I went to see her, and when I tell y'all, it felt so good getting that done. Not only did uh, she address my concerns, my scarcity, not scarcity, but my fear of coming back. She put me at ease. She made the experience nice. Um, it was well worth it. Can I tell y'all, it was cold outside. I didn't even want to put my shoes back on. As a matter of fact, I did put my shoes on. I put the slides on and left my feet open because I didn't want to put any shoes on my feet. They felt so good and soft. But nonetheless, um, I bring that up because we got to take care of ourselves. And that's one way that we take care of ourselves. And let me finish this. So, reflecting, what parts of you, what parts of yourself have you neglected because you're always working? That's one part of myself that I had been neglecting, not only because I was working, but because of an experience that I had that shut me down from the whole process altogether, where I didn't go get it done professionally. Okay, so the last reflective question that I want to ask or have you all think about, for those of you who are tuning in, whether you're catching this live or you're catching this on the replay, is what would it look like to honor yourself off the clock? What would that look like to honor yourself off the clock? You're not at the shop, you're not at the salon. What would that look like to you? So those are some things that I want you to consider with that particular point as it relates to separating yourself from who you are and what you do. All right. So once again, if barbering disappeared tomorrow, if styling disappeared tomorrow, if braiding disappeared tomorrow, if whatever you did disappeared tomorrow, what part of you would still exist? Who would you be? Who are you? That's the real question. Who are you outside of what you do? So I encourage you, this is something that I've gotten back into. So even though I put notes in here, I brought this back up because I used to journal a lot. consecutively for years, and then I stopped. Now I'm getting back into it. So the reason why I mention that is because I encourage you to journal or do some reflection after this episode. Okay. If you're tuning in, we've talked about who are you without the clippers? Who are you without the implement that you use to do your job, to provide the service, or to do the work that you do? So, who are you without that? We're looking at what you do, who you are. What you do shouldn't be tied to who you are. Oftentimes it is, and that's where we get into what we're talking about tonight. Barber identity and worth. Identity beyond the chair, beyond the barber chair, beyond the salon chair, beyond the massage table, beyond whatever it is that you do. Who are you beyond that? So like I say, I encourage you to journal and reflect after this particular episode. I also invite you to go back and check out. So far with this particular series, this makes the fourth one. They can stand on their own. However, I've done three, and I'll recap them real quick, recap the points, and then close us out. So to start this off for the cutting through the mindset, in episode 52, we talked about busy isn't the goal, redefining success behind the chair. The second one, or episode 53, we talked about vision without burnout, designing your ideal barber life. Check out that episode. Some good points were made. In this last one that we did last week, we talked about hustle or alignment, why they're not the same. They aren't the same. Some people think they are, but they really aren't. And if you want to know the difference, check out episode number 56. And in this particular episode tonight, we're basically talking about identity and worth, and how who we are shouldn't be tied to what we do. And oftentimes it is. And like I mentioned before, if that skill or that thing, that implement, and in this case, who are you without the clippers? What is your identity? What is your worth outside of who you are? I mean, what you do. Who are you outside of what you do? That's the real point that I want you to reflect on and think about. So, and recapping this real quick, the first point we talked about is when work becomes identity. A passion can quickly turn into identity attachment when those two are connected. The second point we talked about was why rest feels like failure. And our identity equals productivity. When identity equals productivity, rest feels threatening. It really does for those whose identity is tied to what they do. So for you to rest, you feel like something's wrong, and it shouldn't feel that way, which is why, again, we're talking about your identity and your worth. All right. So the third point is about separating who you are from what you do. Now, your skill is part of you, it's not all of you. And that's the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this. It's part of who you are, but it's not all of you. So if you're tying your identity into what you do, I want you to reconsider tying it into what you do and find out who you are outside of what you do. That's the important thing. Hey, Larissa, thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. I'm preparing to close out tonight's episode. And once again, I encourage you all to journal about it or just reflect on this episode and think about it, especially our young barbers. Don't get caught up in what you do being who you are. When What you do is part of who you are. Okay? So remember, you are more than your craft, more than your booking, more than your income, even. Your value does not disappear when the chair is empty. Your value shouldn't be tied to it. This is about longevity. This is about alignment. This is about building a life that supports your identity, not replacing it. So we don't want to, or we shouldn't replace what we do with who we are. And I think this bears repeating. Think, separate what you do from who you are. Because when you do, you won't get tied up into rest feeling like failure or your identity being tied to what you do. So this, once again, this is about longevity. This is about alignment. This is about building a life that ultimately supports your identity, not replacing it. All right. This it, y'all. That's it for this particular segment. Once again, check out episode 52. Check out episode 53. Check out episode 56. These are all segments, even though these can stand alone, they're all segments under cutting through the mindset. Cutting through the mindset, identity, alignment, legacy. We have identity. We want to ensure that we remain in alignment so that we can create a legacy that outlasts us. Okay? That's all I have. This is Female Barber Talk with Yah-Tay, and we are not just cutting hair, we're cutting through mindsets. All right? That's the coach in me. That's the educator in me. So you're going to see more of this. We have some more individuals coming on. I got two people lined up for next month. So y'all stay tuned for them. But in the meantime, Coach Yah-Tay, the barber stylist, is going to be bringing you some more mindset shift, some more cutting through the mindset. So you have a solid identity that supports the alignment of what you're doing, supports you being in alignment and what you're doing, i.e. your purpose, and creating a legacy, something that'll outlast you. All right? That's all I got. So remember, we're not just cutting hair. We're not just styling hair. We're not just braiding hair. We're cutting through mindsets. We're braiding through this. We're styling through all of this. And as I mentioned, if you're someone who is catching this and you're not necessarily in the barbering or beauty industry, but this title drew you to it, these principles are something that you can use wherever you are and whatever profession you're in. Thank you all for tuning in. Awesome sauce. Larissa says, awesome sauce here. Let me show that. Oh, she was speaking. My bad. Y'all bear with me. Good time, good show tonight. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate it. I try to be intentional with what I'm sharing. I desire that this content is evergreen, and that it's multi-dimensional like we are. And if you look at it, we really are. And like I said earlier, I come from many different backgrounds, and this is my way of pulling all of that together so that it's utilized and maximized. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you all joining. If you're catching this on the replay, thank you for taking time out of your day to replay this podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. All right. That's most helpful. Let's see here. Sandra says, take care, WK. Take care, Larissa. Thank you all. All right, that's it. I'm going to call it a night so I can prepare for this next one. But in the meantime, thank you. I also want to say thank you to those of you all for the birthday wishes, the texts, the calls. I just want to say thank y'all. I appreciate the love. Take care and enjoy. Have a good one. Yes, please let's share and subscribe. Thank you so much, Sandra. I appreciate it. I hope you all have enjoyed it. This content be a blessing. May it be something that causes you to reflect, because I'm a person that I like to make you think, because it makes me think as well. But thank you all for sharing in this space with me. Enjoy. Have a good one.
Naturals.